Welcome to Matched at First Spice, our dating show set to heat up the kitchen. This is brought to you by Master Foods.
Who else? What does Master Foods have to say?
Okay, welcome to Matched at First Spice, our spicy new reality show that invites hopeful singles into the kitchen. Because whose love language isn't a deliciously saucy home-cooked meal? Hey, this is fun. In our first episode, we pair actor and student Jackson with model and producer Gaia. While Gaia describes herself as a really good cook, Jackson says he'd rather eat a pill with all of his nutritional needs. Yikes.
Yikes. But, does he do that? Because that exists.
You know, well, here's the question. Will Jackson be able to keep up with Gaia in the kitchen?
No.
Or will her love of chocolate get in between true love?
Is Gaia a woman of color?
She is.
And is Jackson white?
He is.
Maybe we should watch this show.
I mean, people are entitled to their sexual proclivities. Let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom. But I ain't spending any time on it. But I ain't spending any time on it. But I ain't spending any time on it. Let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom. But I ain't spending any time on it.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Yanni.
How you going?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Had a wild nightmare last night, about my
Yeah.
teeth and shit, but,
Yeah.
otherwise, pretty good.
Yeah, so your teeth were breaking whenever you closed your mouth.
Yeah, they were all fucked up and falling out and breaking and bleeding all over the place, and
Yeah.
people were like, oh, well, guess you've just got bad teeth, and I'm like, I need help.
Nightmares about teeth are pretty common. People have the falling out, them being fucked up. It tends to be either you're worried about your teeth or you're worried about your health in general.
Yeah, well, I was feeling a bit sick recently.
Yeah, so
so it's probably just that, and I'm
Easy
like
way.
catastrophizing subconsciously.
Yeah, you're also you look uncomfortable.
How dare you?
You're lurching forwards. You need to adjust that.
I'm just gonna grab a couple more books, I think.
Yeah, let me go get some books for you.
Thank you. Yeah, just give me a stack of books.
I've read over 50 books, and these are the only 4 that actually help me.
Oh yeah, the other dream, the other bit where you're telling everyone something's wrong and they're like, that just happens. That's when you feel alienated from society. I have that dream.
Yep, that makes sense. Where I'm just like, please, anybody.
And they're
Can't
like,
you see there's a problem? And they're like, nah. I don't know, guess you just have bloody mouth with delicate teeth. And I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah.
That's bad.
You know what else some people think is bad?
What?
Back pain.
Back pain.
Dude.
Yeah, you know what? Back pain does suck.
Do you ever deal with back pain, lower back pain?
Lower back pain on occasion when I've had a big day at work and I've been lifting a bunch of shit that's heavy,
Yeah.
over and over again.
Yeah.
I usually will lie down in bed with the pillow on my spine,
Yeah.
underneath my spine, and then just let my head kind of drop off the edge of it.
Yeah. I also sometimes deal with lower back pain, but I obviously don't have a physical job.
You do a lot of standing, though,
I do a lot of
and
standing
a lot of walking.
and a lot of walking, which is actually tends to not lead to too much lower back pain. But when I worked in an office, absolutely, sitting all day.
Yep.
I don't care about your standing desk. That's still somehow worse than sitting at the desk.
Yeah.
Even though it's better for you, it's worse in terms of what you're doing.
We're seeing a standing desk revolution.
But luckily, I walk past at least 3 chiropractors every day. And plenty of people from certain parts of the world would happily recommend me to a chiropractor specifically to deal with lower back pain.
Have you ever seen a chiropractor for lower back pain?
No, I've never seen a chiropractor. I'm not going to. Have you?
No, I've never been to a chiro before. I see a lot of those videos online and those parody ones where it's just relax, and they
Yeah.
just snap your neck.
Yeah,
That's scary. I don't like that.
They have a weird reputation. I'm gonna send you a world map chart that shows you the amount of chiropractors per 100,000 people.
Okay.
Countries in deeper blue have more chiropractors per citizen. Could you tell the audience what you see?
Absolutely. The US and Canada, quite dark blue. Australia, equally dark blue. And then, what is that? Is that Sweden or is that Norway?
That's Sweden and Norway. Norway's, I think, darker. The
Yeah.
phallus of Europe.
Yeah. The peeny bits are quite dark.
It looks like such a penis. Yeah. So where do you see chiropractors? Would you say?
White countries, I guess.
Yeah,
White
yeah.
countries seems to be I'll tell you this. China, none. Africa, very small smattering of blues in there. South America has some light blues in there, but overall,
Yeah, I'll
this
send
is
you
not.
I'll send you the total amount of chiropractors one. So this one's not per person.
The most chiropractors are in the United States of America. Following that, we've got Australia, Canada, and the UK seem to have the next most amount of chiropractors. Following that, we've got Scandinavia, France, Brazil, and South Africa, and New Zealand, and then it kind of just goes down from there.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like, even the name of it, it's chiropractic. It's not chiropractis or chiropractory or something like that. It's chiropractic.
Chiropractic.
Which is just weird to say. It's alienating.
Yeah, it's chiropractic.
Yeah, like that's the field.
I mean, it just feels like it should be chiropractic.
Or like, chiropractic feels the most normal as a word. If we look at like other kinds of medical things, you got physiotherapists, so chirotherapist, something like that.
Yeah, chiropractory, chiropractician.
But chiropractic.
Yeah, chiropractic.
And you're a chiropractor if you do chiropractic. And chiropractic is a very Western, Anglosphere, damn well what I mean when I say white people phenomenon. In 2019, the most chiropractic institutions were in the United States with 18, and then Australia with 4.
Whoa, sorry, that's a huge difference. 18 to 4, and that's first and second.
That's first and second. Most places don't have a chiropractic institution, especially not one that's like publicly funded.
What?
Or there's like 1, but Australia has 4, and the United States has 18. Per 100,000, Australia has the most.
Well, I guess we have a smaller population and just like more chiropractors.
A lot of chiropractors.
Well, yeah, I mean, even in the neighborhood we live in, as you've said, like their fucking clinics are everywhere. They're on every street corner.
And like, I recently spoke to a lady who worked as a doctor in China for a decade or so. And we were talking about like healthcare and medicine stuff. And I mentioned this episode I'm working on about chiropractor. And she went in on Australian chiropractors. And the way she told it, in China, they were basically the bane of her existence. They'd make people like distrust health initiatives from like the Chinese government. And made a lot of money while doing it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, like she was like, oh my God, don't get me started on Australian chiropractic. And so that was really interesting. But like, counter to that, if you're a random Australian going through life without thinking too much about medical sounding words you haven't heard before, chiropractic's going to seem just like a normal thing. Like, I had never thought about it till I was maybe 25.
Yeah, like, especially as you've mentioned, working in an office with, back pain and stuff, that's where I heard the most about going to chiropractors is people being like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go see my chiro. Like, I need to, my back is funny. I'm going to go get my back cracked and shit. And it's like, yeah. And also, strangely enough, and maybe this is just the nature of offices in Australia, mostly I was hearing women talk about it. Like, not that many men, but that's also a health thing. Men don't take care of themselves.
There's that.
Leaks, black, ooze. It's so confusing. It's soap. It's just soap.
I think the more interesting ratio is that there's more male chiropractors than female chiropractors, but there's way more female physiotherapists than male physiotherapists.
Which is wild because mentally I'm thinking of their patients in the opposite way. Like physio is for dudes, chiros is for girls.
Yeah, and a lot of working class Australians go to chiro. Because if you think about an office, there's a lot of women in an office.
Pretty girls deserve to get paid.
Compared to like a work site.
Yeah.
And so the office version of it's when you're sitting down and the work site version is when you're lifting things. But whatever it is, wherever you work, there's going to be a chunk of people who are going to the chiropractor. It's like, okay, I'm going to the chiropractor, like I'm going to the GP, or I have a broken bone, so I'm going to use a splint.
Yeah, it's really normal. It's just people do it.
Really normal. Medicare will cover 5 chiropractic appointments every year if you've been diagnosed with a chronic condition. Bulk motherfucking billed. Which
Damn.
is, like, that's not true of dental care.
No, which is fucked up. And again, on my high horse about dental care, because of my scary tooth dream, I wish that dental care was covered. And it wasn't like fucking, I don't know, like $200 to go get somebody to look at my fucking chompers.
Yeah, and there are places in the world where it is covered. But to get to the closest dentist or GP or grocery store, I'd have to walk past, like, at least 2 chiropractors. There's so many of them.
There are as many chiropractors as there are, like, Maccas.
Yeah.
It feels like. They're everywhere.
Yeah, and they're, like, in many ways, they're more accessible than the doctor because of, like, bulk billing rules and costs and stuff.
Well, yeah.
But if you have a friend who knows a little bit about the medical system, like my doctor friend or many people I've met, they'll have a very strong opinion that chiro is junk science and quackery and chiropractors are leeches on the medical system, fundamentally.
Damn.
That's not the case for, like, the GP. Like, they don't inspire that kind of, like, they're evil or they're going to save your whole life kind of thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's really interesting because some people swear by chiropractic.
Yeah.
They're like,
people,
this is incredible. my back is always incredible after I go.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
People will tell you to change their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like really passionately advocate for it.
Yeah.
Talking about our office job, I was also in that office.
Yeah.
And the union delegate at that job at that time spent way more time advocating for going to a chiropractor than she did like advocating for the union.
You know, just office things.
Just office things. And like I want to get this across. Like I'm not here to question someone's experience. Chronic pain sucks. And pain isn't like fixing a bone or delivering antivenom or something quite...
Yeah, an issue with a cure.
With a cure, with like an obvious, here is the problem, here is the solution.
Yeah.
It's a complex web of nerves and sensations. It's not as well understood as advertisers for painkillers or chiropractors would have you believe.
Yeah.
That's why wherever you go in the world, you can find something of an opioid crisis.
Well, yes.
And-
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that's half of why. The other half is the United States commandeering Afghanistan into producing vast quantities of opium to deal with all the veterans from the Afghan war that were going back to the United States in chronic pain and with dismembered limbs from the IUD. Anyway.
The Afghan client state was the world's biggest drug cartel, and it was directly backed at all times by the CIA and the whole of the US government.
It's really difficult to talk about chiropractic specifically because you end up trying to defend the medical establishment.
The private insurer recording a near 60% bump to profit, banking almost $500 million.
And they've got enough lawyers to do that themselves. They're fine.
They're fine. And like you're also defending some of the people who benefit a lot monetarily from the medical establishment.
Yes.
If you go along a certain way of
Big
talking about
pharma.
Yeah, like that's the end of the whole like, oh, chiropractors are crazy. Like if that's where you're starting, that's where you kind of end. Because there has to be someone who's not crazy.
I mean, I guess you're right. There has to be somebody who's not crazy.
Well, because if chiropractors being crazy is a problem, then
everybody else therefore must be like less crazy or not crazy.
Exactly. And so I'm not trying to defend the medical establishment in general, but like I think fairly mainstream medical views when it comes to things because I don't know anything about my body. I'm not trained to do anything. So there's plenty of criticism of the model. It's usually referred to as the biomedical model, but people will kind of just be like, oh, that's what medicine is. And then you have alternative medicine. But the biomedical model is the formal way that our health system is kind of made.
Okay.
And problems with the way that the biomedical model is delivered are probably why we have all these chiropractors. And we'll get into a bit of that.
Fair.
But this is also a story of medical quackery. And chiropractors do make plenty of money. So I don't think it makes sense to position them as opposing the extractive medical care system, even though they're in opposition with medical literature and consensus.
Okay, so this is I can't remember which condition it is, but there was a condition, virus of some sort back in the old days, and they used malaria to treat it. Syphilis, there we go. So like, yeah, this is like hey, syphilis and malaria are both viruses, but they are like, I guess one of them is doing so. I don't know where this analogy is going.
Yeah, I don't know how it's like that at all.
I was just really trying to get some medical knowledge in there. I don't have that much. I was like, malaria.
Overall, pyrotherapy cured about half of all the people who underwent it, although an estimated 15% or so died from the malaria instead.
To sum it up, if you're listening to this and you went to a chiropractor and they helped you with chronic pain, that's great. That's really good, and I'm really happy for you. But please consider that there is a degree of lunacy here. I think you should distrust anything developed by a Canadian-American mystic in the late 1800s.
Go on.
Like, it's an alternative medical system, but it's been entirely made in the American capitalist hellscape. It's a field of massage in which there are warring factions with vast disagreements about what they actually do. None of this makes me feel any safer going to a chiropractor.
Okay, so firstly of all, absolutely, America, Canada, all of North America, sorry about it, you can't be trusted.
Can't.
Mystic.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
And they're fighting?
Yeah, and there's fighting. There's so much fighting. There's so much fighting in the world of chiropractors.
I'm imagining somebody going in for an appointment, and this is like a reality show, right? Where they've got like, I don't know, two opposing chiropractic ideologies, and they both try and like massage this one patient. And they're just like beating each other up while they're like cracking like ribs and shit. I don't know.
They get vicious with each other.
Oh, fuck.
Because there's like two. It's not quite as distinctly defined as a lot of the summaries will have you believe, but there are kind of two ideologies. There's warring factions. I'll just go get like my prescription weed from Big Pharma.
It's fine. It's
like
fine.
at that point, it's like, I'm too scared. So over the next 2 episodes, we are going to try answering the question of what is up with all these chiropractors over here?
I'm really excited. I want to know.
Yeah. But we're going to start with the early history of chiropractic. And there are 2 ways to tell the story. The first is an inspiring, intriguing narrative based on a large sweep of human history and human prehistory. And the second is the fun story that I'm excited to talk about.
Oh my gosh, okay, yay.
So, bone setting is a very general term, referring to the practice of manipulating a person's body to help fractures, broken bones, joint problems, or whatever. In biomedicine, this falls under orthopedics, but the basic actions are pretty intuitive, and so it's not surprising that archaeological implies that primitive versions of it predate any culture that we've ever heard of.
Well, yeah, you break your arm and it's at a fucked angle, and it's like, well, shit, that's not good, so you try and put it back the way it was.
Yeah.
And then hopefully it'll heal that way, and
Yeah.
you won't have an arm that is just like a right angle at the forearm or something.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Like, sometimes the thing that someone did in a moment of desperation, looking at a wonky bone, worked. They like, oh, what if we just tie it up?
What if we just, oh fuck, okay, this is meant to be straight. What if we just put a stick on it and
Yeah.
we just make it straight again?
And then that person becomes like a shaman. You know,
It's just like, holy shit, how did you know to do that?
Exactly. Like, it's a miracle. And a lot of the time they probably fucked up. And so the ways to deal with these things transferred in really ununderstandable ways when we're looking at things historically. Like, they're self-taught or they come from a family who practice it, and they're dealing with problems that we deal with today. So like splints or shoulder dislocation, but they're not referring
pop
to a
that bitch back in.
textbook.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably have never dealt with a dislocated shoulder in their life, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're living to 30, it just might never come up. You'll have generations where you don't deal with this kind of shit.
Yeah.
And then there's just one guy who knows how to do it. And you have to demonstrate to him how to fix injuries without giving that person all the injuries to, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I went down a crazy rabbit hole trying to find a reputable account of the oldest archaeological evidence of the treatment of a broken bone. And it is extremely contested.
I love that. Of course it is.
Yeah. So
People have been breaking bones as long as they've had bones.
Yeah, I mean, since there's before people, there have been broken bones.
Yeah.
There's a famous, like, often repeated story of an anthropologist. And she's a famous anthropologist, and I forgot to write her name. But
That's fine. Look, she's got enough accolades, I imagine.
Yeah, she's Margaret Mead, I think. And she was asked in this story, what's the oldest evidence of civilization? And the person's like, oh, she's probably going to say, like, the
Sumerians or some shit, I don't know.
Yeah, or something about the linear A pottery culture or something like that. But she's like, oh, it's the broken bone found in an ancient site 15,000 years ago, and it shows people loving and caring for each other and planning for the future.
I remember this story, and it's like, wow, amazing. They didn't just abandon this person when they had a broken leg. They survived long enough for their leg to heal.
Yeah, it made the rounds a lot during COVID. It's a lovely sounding sentiment.
We were right because we stuck together.
It's complete nonsense in terms of the boring shit, like, like what site, what bone, what evidence. Did she actually say it? No.
Well,
but so that's not the case. But here's something. Some Croatian people purport to have evidence of 130,000-year-old Neanderthal bones in Croatia. I wonder what the Croatian Neanderthal accent was like.
I think that Neanderthal people are really people.
Hell yeah, wild as hell.
But they had successfully healed fractures and also evidence of amputations.
Oh shit,
which,
okay.
I guess also fixes the problem.
Well, yeah, especially if you've had a crushing injury and then something is completely useless and it's
Stuff
like,
like
oh,
that.
it's really fucked up. If we just get rid of it, you'll probably have a better chance at healing one big wound versus numerous small fucked up ones.
Exactly. With no information. You're just looking at a hand that's all directions. You're like,
it's just, oh fuck, that's so fucked, my
just
guy.
get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the evidence, obviously, we're talking about bone fragments for 130,000 years ago. So they're talking about
hard to say, really.
how the fracture is healed. Does it look like it was healed intentionally, or how bad was the fracture? So I don't know, but somewhere between 130,000 and 15,000 years ago, or probably before, or probably after, someone figured out how to do splints.
Hell yeah, a really accurate time frame.
Yeah, we were listening to the My Mama Told Me podcast recently. And the guest said something along the lines of history is mostly theoretical after a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to keep that in mind. We're talking about mental processes that our minds don't really access anymore.
Yeah, because we have no fucking clue. Like,
Exactly. This is a time when we read the world in fewer words.
yeah.
It was a different time, and we can't really understand it. And obviously, when we're talking about ancient medicine, there's a fair share of mysticism and shaman stuff and all the fun contours that I wish doctors still had.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Apply to me a poultice or whatever.
That's what I wear when I do shamanic healing.
Yeah, well, the depiction of
What kind of salves can you apply to me to fix my, like, you know...
diarrhea.
Yeah.
The depiction of the, like, healer, shaman, beastmaster type character in the video game Far Cry Primal.
My favorite, well, not my... You know, it might be my favorite game. I love that game.
Yeah, that's... seems to be, like, a lot of early shamans. Like, it's not, like, a terrible depiction of how they kind of would operate. You've got these mystical ceremonies. Part of that is like, I need to get you to like have this antiseptic thing, which is just straight up like the ass of a frog or something.
Yeah.
So I need to have a whole ceremony to get you to do that.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I can't just make you eat this because you'll be like, I'm not going to fucking eat that. And it's like, no, this has importance and weight.
Exactly.
And we might get really high afterwards.
Exactly.
So I think we can all understand, like, yeah, it's like a spoonful of sugar, you know? It's just... have the frog ass, we'll have some ayahuasca, and we'll just fucking, you'll feel better.
Yeah, whatever it may be, or like I'm gonna fuck up your shoulders, so I need you to like.
I need you to smoke this shit right now.
Exactly, and you won't feel it as much. I'm like, I like to imagine. So you've got two shamans in a town, right? And one of them's got a bunch of like fucked up healed bones, and the other one has like a perfect body. Which shaman do you go to?
Which is the better shaman? You go to the perfect one. No, you go to the fucked up one.
You go to the fucked up one.
Because he's made the perfect one perfect.
Exactly. And then it's just like, yeah, I'm really clumsy. Like, he's just really clumsy. He's not even, he just gets a lot of broken bones.
Just knocking shit over, and they're all like, oh my God, you have to keep yourself alive. You keep the rest of us alive.
It's like, oh man, this riddle doesn't work this long ago. Anyway, in terms of written history, the oldest evidence we have is the Edwin Smith Papyrus.
Okay.
Obviously, that's the person who, like, stole it.
No, that's the ancient being Edwin Smith.
Yes, it's physically dated to the 17th century BC, so 3,700 years ago.
Fuck.
And it's an Egyptian work.
Hell yeah.
It's of disputed authorship, but it details all manner of bone splint, spine fixing, how to sew a soldier's holes back up. It's been theorized, and most people seem to think it's a manual of military surgery.
Okay, well, that also makes a lot of sense. That's probably the time you would most want to heal an injury as quickly as possible and also might be when you'll get the most vicious injuries are going to be during like battles and stuff.
Yeah, most vicious is a really good way to put it because you've got also like a lot of injuries. Like crazy shamans after war, it's just like, oh, I got business now.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh, we're about to make some money.
I can get a fish.
I mean, I'm about to get some livestock.
Yeah, and so some doctors looked at it in 2010 and with like a clinical eye, and they were like, the documented rationale on spinal injuries can still be regarded as state-of-the-art reasoning for modern clinical practice.
Huh, sorry.
They were basically like the papyrus, this...
Pretty good?
Yeah, they were like it...
Fuck.
Especially based on what they would have been able to know. But even like now, they're like, yeah, the procedure they have for how you're meant to do medicine is like, yeah, this is pretty much what a doctor would do now.
Holy shit,
in
that's
terms of,
great.
like, the step by step.
Yeah, they're just like, all right, what's the problem? All right, what's the fix?
And it could be really old because it's written in like old fashioned hieroglyphs. So people think the copy we have was copied but from a previous version.
Oh, so that it could be even older. This is like this is a medical textbook. This is somebody's textbook. This is, a 3rd edition papyrus.
By Imhotep. No. But that's what...
I was about to be like, oh my God.
There is one guy whose whole theory in life seems to be Imhotep wrote the Edwin Smith Papyrus.
I mean, he might have. He was a magical mystic guy who was in love with the Noxonomun, as the documentary The Mummy tells us.
Yes, Imhotep from The Mummy. There's no evidence that it was Imhotep. Again, history is mostly theoretical.
Yeah. Look, I also fall victim to wishing there were connections where there aren't any, because it's a good story, but that's not really how the world
works. It's been dated to roughly the time that we think there was Imhotep doing the things that he might have done if there was Imhotep.
I think Rasputin wrote it, actually.
It was a shame how we carried on.
I think he time traveled and he wrote that.
No, he didn't. I mean, he time traveled in the way that he was born 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, doctors now aren't the enemy from The Mummy or wild-haired hut dwellers that force-feed you a live frog and rub tobacco on your shoulder before turning it in a brand new direction and somehow fixing it. Modern medicine is professionalized and punishingly expensive, and it's a mentally torturous field to get into.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Like, if you want to be a doctor, you got to get a crazy ATAR.
ATAR, spend a lot of money.
And the residency period.
Takes 15
and,
years.
like, fucking ages.
To make that worth it in our society, you got to get big prices.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. Because, like, if you're going to do all of that, dedicate a massive chunk of your life to it.
Yeah.
And then be like, all right, and now we'll stop you from being a poor student that you've been for, like, 3 times as long as everybody else who did studying.
Exactly. It's got like
you can make money now. And it's
you
like,
have to be able
fuck,
to
all right.
afford all that alcohol.
You know?
So in much of the world where access to formal healthcare is limited, vintage bone setters are still pretty common.
Yeah.
A lot of the articles I read referred to a 1998 finding, so I don't know how true this still is, but bone setters in India at that point were treating about 60% of bone-related trauma.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Like traditional bone setters, which makes sense if you know about how like inequality and the population is shaped in India.
Yeah.
And typical traditional bone setters aren't going to charge for their service.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine a lot of stuff is like paid in kind, kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
paid
like, hey,
donation,
yeah,
like you just keep the bone setter alive.
Yeah.
And if there's a tradition we can all get behind, it's trying to save money when dealing with the medical system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So chiropractic's continued power is a continuation of those two traditions, bone setting and austerity.
Okay.
So the founder of chiropractic, and here's the fun story, Daniel David Palmer, we're going to call him DD. DD Palmer.
I wanna be a pop star.
He'd been learning about the then new field of osteopathy, which we're not going to get in today because it's a bigger and more confusing story.
And that's just bone stuff, right, in general. Like, osteopaths are just bone guys.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
The original chiropractic ideas are alleged to be heavily inspired by them.
Okay.
Like,
does that mean stolen?
It just means stolen, yes.
Therapy dupe.
So, osteopathy, which was founded in the late 1800s in Kansas, found its niche treating patients who weren't interested in conventional medical treatment of the day. And that's totally fair. Do you know what heroic medicine is?
When your doctor is a Superman.
That's the thing. It sounds like that. It means like bloodletting. Just lots of bloodletting is heroic medicine.
Oh, damn. Is that heroic?
No.
He's such a hero. He cut my son like 12 times.
There's like evidence
and now he's tired. He wouldn't sleep before.
There's evidence of a bloodletter in America recommending for 80% of the volume of the blood to be let out of a patient.
You can't fucking do it. That's just them being like, I reckon we should kill this one.
Yeah, let's
I reckon,
exsanguinate him.
hey, this one, not good.
Yeah.
Not good. Let all of his blood out. We all done.
Yeah.
All done.
Give me blood, and I will give you freedom.
Like, shaman in a hut still sounds better than that.
Yeah.
Like, if that's,
shaman in a hut is like, I should probably keep you alive. I know that the juice is meant to stay inside of you. That's how we all stay alive.
That's how we all stay alive. So, a lot of the cultural infrastructure around chiropractic obscures its origins as evolutions of what people have done forever to keep their bodies working when society is letting them fall through the cracks.
Yeah. You can't get the medical treatment that is considered official of the day, so you just find other ways to treat yourself because, I mean, if the issue is significant enough that it impacts your life in a negative way, what are you going to do? Just like let it continue to fuck you over and then whatever? No, of course you're going to look for options.
Exactly. And it's something that people have been doing forever, but if you ask D.D. Palmer about where he got the idea.
All right, D.D., come on.
So D.D.'s life was pretty standard that time in that place. He was a beekeeper, and then he worked at a grocery store.
Sorry. You've already lost me. Pretty standard. He was a beekeeper.
Well, people needed honey.
Yeah, but, like, how many people do you think are beekeepers?
Like, there's, like, a beekeeper in every town.
Maybe. I don't know enough about bees.
Well, at that point, honey's a really, really common sweetener. Bees are not dying out like they are now.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah, of course. Okay, people keep bees.
Yeah,
people keep bees. That makes... I will allow him to be a beekeeper and a normal person for now.
He also worked at a grocery store. That's normal.
Yeah, I guess. Like, he just moonlights as a... Does he moonlight as a beekeeper or as a grocery clerk?
Maybe he was selling his honey at the grocery store.
Ooh, genius.
But in 1870 or so when he's about 25, he meets the love of his life.
Aw.
A psychic named Abba Lord.
Abba Lord.
Abba Lord. Her first name is Abba, like the band.
Yeah.
And her last name is Lord, like the title.
You are the dancing Lord.
Yeah. Anyway, the way Dee Dee tells it, Abba stuns him by making like flawless prediction after flawless prediction and shakes his previously skeptical atheist beliefs.
I mean, Abba stuns me like that as well. I
Yeah.
mean, Waterloo, I was defeated, you won the war.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Shit.
How did they know?
Can you hear the drums, Fernando?
Like they wrote that before the Mexican Revolution.
They knew.
They knew.
But anyway, so she's like, he is mystified by her mysticism and is like, wow, she is so good at predicting the future. She is she's got it. She's got it.
And as he falls further and further in love with this child, he also learns more and more about the mystical nature of the human body.
Sorry, wait, child?
Yeah, Abba is 13.
Fuck! God fucking damn it.
That's not important. That's not
Hey,
important.
I feel like it's pretty important.
No, it's fine.
How old is he?
25.
Fuck!
It's not important. It's the 1870s. It's Iowa or whatever.
Jesus Christ.
But Abba...
So what? This fucking... No, go on.
Abba introduces him to the most important figure in Dee Dee's life. Dr. Jim Atkinson, who traveled to Iowa during a seance held by Abba to tell Dee Dee that the body can completely heal itself if you fix nerves that have become misaligned around your spine.
And how does he have this information?
Dr. Jim Atkinson, he's dead. And so he's like a messenger from God that's come to the seance that Abba held.
Sorry,
psychically.
she summoned him.
Yeah.
She summoned this dead doctor.
Yes. I have to imagine she might have spoken through him. He might have spoken through her, rather.
I am processing as best as I can.
Oh, we'll get there.
Okay, so Abba holds a seance.
Yes.
Which honestly, for a 13-year-old girl, is just like sleepover behavior. She's basically doing sleepover behavior.
She's like a street mystic. Like, she's like a homeless 13-year-old girl.
Jesus Christ, that's even worse that there's a fucking 25-year-old who's just like, Abba, I love you.
Yeah, no, Dee Dee Palmer, who, I hope you get your Iowa accent ready, because you get to read some Dee Dee Palmer in a bit.
Oh, shit. I don't know how you sound Iowans, but I'll do my best.
Not good, you have to imagine. But Dee Dee Palmer knows the secret now. It's subluxations. Subluxations. That's the term for the thing happening to your nerves. It's a subluxation.
Subluxation.
Your nerves are like bending over each other. Now, it's not really I don't think it's real.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about a fucking pinched nerve. Is that a thing, or is that just like a layman's term for squishy?
Subluxation is a chiropractic term.
Okay.
I don't think it has any medical bearing.
Okay.
But Dee Dee knows that it's actually the cure to every disease that you can have. So he has to tell everybody.
Naturally, he's like, I've got it. I've got the cure.
So if you ask Dee Dee, at first he's like Spider-Man before he's like figured out how to use his powers.
Oh my God.
So there's this famous story, it's mostly discredited, but this famous story that he's like massaging this guy's back, this deaf guy, and he makes him hear again. like the janitor.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Damn, you ever get a back rub so good you can fucking hear again?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It does, like, people have looked into it critically and it's not like that, but it's whatever. That's the story that really takes hold and makes chiropractic quite famous, and he makes a bunch of money.
That's some snake oil shit.
Exactly. Like, he's a snake oil salesman. He first failed at magnetic healing, and then he did
with magnets. Just like rubbing magnets on people, being like, oh, your blood is too metal.
Yeah, nailed it. That's it. I think it was about aligning the metal in your body with the magnet. It's again, like, it's just nonsense, right?
Yeah.
And that absolutely fails. On the topic of failing, actually, despite 5 more failed marriages after ABBA.
What?
Yeah. So I said ABBA wasn't, like, that she was young wasn't that important. I'm not sure that ABBA existed, because I think ABBA's part of Dee Dee Palmer's story about chiropractic.
Damn. And so in his imaginings, if we go with this, he's just like, yeah, and I fell in love with a spiritual child.
Yeah, I fell in love with a spiritual 13-year-old child that had a conduit to a doctor who was talking to Jesus God.
She was magic and I loved her.
Exactly. In the 1870s, that sold really well. But despite all these failed marriages, Dee Dee's son, BJ, was a passionate chiropractor in his own right.
Barnaby Joyce?
Yeah, Barnaby Joyce.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Palmer.
All right.
Forgot to write down what BJ's actual name was.
That's fine, it's BJ.
It's BJ.
Variable subluxation is the missing link, the connecting link between mind and matter.
So BJ doesn't agree with some of Dee Dee's like more spiritual sort of beliefs.
Okay, so BJ is like, hey, Dad, I'm kind of wondering about that first marriage and about you actually contacting a dead professor.
It's not that. He just thinks Dee Dee's scaring the hose. It's more
Okay,
like...
he's just like, oi, Dad, Papa, chill.
Yeah.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
And for an example, here's a public letter that Dee Dee Palmer wrote in 1911, and we're going to get back to Australia right after this, I promise. But Kieran, if you could just read what I've sent you.
Yes. I occupy in chiropractic a similar position as did Mrs. Eddy in Christian Science. Mrs. Eddy claimed to receive her ideas from the other world, and so do I. She founded thereon a religion, and so may I. I am the only one in chiropractic who can do so. It is strange to me why every chiropractor does not want a copy of my book. I have received chiropractic from the other world, similar as did Miss Edie. No other one has laid claim to that. Not even BJ.
I so philosophically disagree with this.
Let there be exemption laws for chiro. And let that exemption be the right to practice our religion. We must have a religious head, one who is the founder, as did Christ, Muhammad, Joseph Smith, Mrs. Edie, Martin Luther, and others who have founded religions. I am the fountainhead. I am the founder of chiropractic in its science, in its art, in its philosophy, and in its religious phase.
Yeah, that's...
Damn.
That's Dee Dee.
That's a lot.
Dee Dee Palmer's a fucking psycho.
Yeah, he's just like, I am your Lord God, and I will crack your back as Jesus cracked the backs of our sins.
That's actually closer to his writings than you think. As fun as it would be to just tell this story and be like, isn't that wacky? Chiropractic's weird. Dee Dee is like a particularly wacky dude even within chiropractic. Like...
The pedophile beekeeper who thinks he spoke to a dead professor and learnt the cure to everything is just like pinching nerves in a certain way in the back.
Exactly. It's unfair to, as funny as it is, it's unfair to discredit, I guess, chiropractic by talking about Dee Dee Palmer.
Okay, but he's the one who invented it.
But he's not really. That's the thing,
he's
right?
the one who co-opted the idea of it?
Exactly. So, like, an active, like, what I'm saying is, like, we have more of a story to tell.
Okay.
And because his son, Dee Dee's son, BJ, isn't really about all that.
All right,
like,
Beej.
He still has the same religious beliefs, and he's still a big subluxation fan. But he's trying to be more professional, because this is the early 1900s. American capitalism is so exciting, and there's some money to be made. Don't think about the Depression. And all of this Jesus massage talk is really, like, scaring off customers.
Yeah, he's like, Daddy, come on, this is the 20th century.
Yeah, exactly. It's the 20th century. And he's like, BJ wants to use x-ray machines and he's gone to business school. He wants to expand the economic heft of chiropractic.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean...
Of the chirocracy.
Fuck. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, his dad is kind of like promoted and set up this thing. And he's like, okay, how do we get bigger?
How do we get bigger? How
that
do we
makes
expand?
sense. You know, that's family business shit. You
gotta
know,
do something to impress him. Yeah. So you can't really blame BJ for maybe hitting Dee Dee with a car and killing him.
What?
Or maybe not.
What?
So he might not have hit him with a car at all. And he was old anyway, and the car crash might have been fake. It also might never... But it's reported.
What?
It's reported sometimes that BJ hit Dee Dee with a car and killed him. What's important to remember is that this was like 100 years ago, so history is mostly theoretical.
I just feel like, and call me crazy, I just feel like that's something that you'd have like a reasonable recording of.
Well, like it's like, you know, the 1900s in rural Iowa or whatever. Like, there's no cameras. You got like a couple witnesses.
No, not even like an obituary being like, "Oh, we are so sad that he was hit by a car."
Who's gonna write Dee Dee Palmer's obituary? No, I think
the ghost of ABBA. I don't know.
He was hit by a car and he died shortly after, and the car might have been driven by BJ, but it might not have been, and it might have done nothing to do with his death, or it might have, but he was very old.
Okay,
That's an
so
aside.
he either just like died because he was old, or his son killed him with a car.
Yeah, those are the two options.
Fuck.
At one point in the expansion that BJ picks up after Dee Dee passes away, BJ buys a radio station, and
okay,
it's still around. It's currently like owned by iHeartMedia.
Oh
and
shit!
It's no longer. Yeah, it's no longer about.
Get us on the payroll, iHeart.
It kind of like turned into iHeartMedia, but it's no longer about chiropractic. But it was known as WOC, so World of Chiropractic.
Okay.
And it is the station that gave United States President Ronald fucking Reagan his start on the airwaves.
Seriously?
In 1932.
Oh shit!
I am paying for this microphone, Mr.
Chiropractic, obviously, as we know now, was very successful. And the tale of that in America is an exciting story of antitrust laws, intellectual property, buying off judges, and junk science. It's the birth of the mixers, BJ's more professional camp, and the straights, Dee Dee's more religious ideas. But we simply do not have time, because the Chiro Organization of Australia says that it's likely that the first chiropractor in Australia was a lady named Barbara Brake, who arrived in 1907, and it seems like our story has finally been adjusted back to Australia.
Damn, okay, so Barbara Brake, what a name for a bone person.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That her name's Brake. That's very funny. She's a very, I mean, even the nominative determinism, it's a very Australian story. Like, maybe Brake's just her nickname.
You know?
It's a Barbara Brake.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you know, old Brakey.
That's what you call a chiropractor. It's a Brakey.
Yeah, that's a Brakey. Oh, yeah, you know, just got to go to the Brakey.
But it's a very chiropractor story. It's a very Australian story. She's a wealthy lady, and she's got a prominent husband, and she goes overseas to learn a mystical wellness routine.
Oh, that's so wealthy Australian woman coded.
Exactly. Like today, this would be an oil executive's wife who lives on an ashram in Ayodhya and comes back to teach yoga.
Yeah, this is some eat, pray, love shit.
Exactly. But Barbara and her children leave Victoria for 3 months to go to Kirksville, Missouri.
What are you hoping will be your legacy here in Kirksville?
Projects Missouri in the United States of America.
Yeah.
And while she's there, she learns chiropractic directly from Dee Dee and BJ Palmer at what's very confusingly named the American School of Osteopathy.
So, okay. All right, okay.
Don't worry, because she doesn't actually become a qualified chiropractor.
Oh. So it was all a fucking waste.
Well, she got a diploma, but, so for one thing, qualified chiropractor doesn't mean anything at this point. And for another thing, her diploma says, specifically, this does not make you a chiropractor. And you're not allowed to do chiropractor stuff. It's more of a attendance document for a workshop series.
So that it's just like, hey, you can tell people you went to this training.
Exactly, but I mean, she becomes it's kind of similar in some ways to the story of Canada's first chiropractor. And I promise we're gonna have this aside for a reason. So, her name was Almeda Halderman. And she studied chiropractic in Minneapolis and graduated in 1905, a year or so before Barbara. She might have also studied with Dee Dee and BJ. Her inspiration was to treat her husband John Hadelman's diabetes. And she went into practice in Saskatchewan. So she has a son named Joshua Hadelman, who follows in her footsteps and does study with BJ Palmer directly.
Okay.
And Joshua remains a close friend of the Palmers and a high-up chiropractor. He's like president of the Canadian Association or something.
Okay.
And then he parlays this into a political career. So he's running for the Canadian government in the 1940s.
Okay.
He is part of the Technocratic Party. So that's an old-fashioned anti-communist political idea of letting the biggest, certified nerds run parliament.
Okay, yep.
Get the most professors or whatever.
We need the smartest boys in here.
I have an IQ of 146. They just completed my vision.
Exactly, and that was more popular at the time. Joshua's other positions, so he was a pro-apartheid Nazi, didn't go down super well in Canada after World War II.
Funny that.
So he made the most obvious move at the time. He moves to Pretoria, South Africa.
Oh, yeah, funny that.
So there, alongside being secretary and president of the South African Chiropractors Association, he raised 5 children, including May Helderman, who was working on reception at the chiropractic office by the time she was 12. May went on to be a Miss South Africa finalist and marries her high school sweetheart, electromechanical engineer and emerald miner Errol Musk.
What?
They obviously have Elon in 1971.
I know a lot about brains, actually, and it's like Jell-O in a coconut.
Kieran's just covering his mouth.
I'm so shocked.
His eyes are wide open.
What?
Yep. Elon Musk's great-grandmother was the first chiropractor in Canada. Her son was a chiropractor and Nazi who moves to South Africa, has May Musk, who marries Errol, who is like the emerald miner.
I am going insane.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Links between chiropractic and fringe political views date really far back.
Holy shit.
And try not to think too much about it.
So his maternal side is like chiropractic, like legacy shit.
Chiropractic and Nazi.
And Nazi, obviously, and Nazi, but like...
Because Errol, so Elon's dad, who seems like a piece of shit, but not...
I mean, he fucked his like stepdaughter or adopted daughter or whatever.
He's married to now, his stepdaughter. Yeah. And he also like beat the shit out of May, beat the shit out of Elon. Piece of shit.
Yeah.
From what I understand, he's not super ideological.
I think he's just a bad rich man.
He's just a bad rich man. He's like, yeah, all the apartheid stuff, that's the May's family really passionate about that. You know? He's like, my wife's family really love that shit.
He's just like, oh, my wife is a racist. No, hang on. Fuck.
No, that's it. That's all you get. That's all you get.
Racist mark. I don't know.
I think you nailed it. So we're back to Australia in the early 1900s. We're going to leave Elon Musk out of our story.
God.
Further. Our first chiropractor, Barbara, also has a rich husband. So James Hugh Brake was a member of the Victorian Legislative Assembly and on like local councils and stuff like that.
Okay, politician type.
Yeah, so Barbara has a bit of a nest egg to pour into her new pet project. She gets an ABN, maybe? I don't know if they had ABN.
They're like, okay, and what's this business? And it's like, oh, it's a secret. It's like, do you have any qualifications? It's a secret.
Puts it down.
Don't look.
And yeah, she starts spruiking her services as a trained chiropractor and osteopath, and she takes out an advertisement to assure people that chiropractic cures all diseases.
Yeah, all right, girl, prove it.
Yeah, again, heroic medicine. So it's obviously not medically accurate at all, but nobody gives a fuck about that kind of nerd shit at this time.
No.
And Barbara's allowed to keep spruiking the fake cures that her fake degree confers upon her the ability to do, but it doesn't, and it's in line with the fake field she works in.
Yeah, what the fuck? So it's just...
It's a mess at this point.
It's a grift on a grift. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of grifts on.
Griftception.
But there were competitors, right? Chiro, at this point, is an annoying upstart in the world of natural medicine. It's competing with a bunch of other oddly specific fields that claim to be able to cure all of humanity's problems.
Yeah.
A multitude of misleading modalities. Some of the fields with popularity at the time have not got the heft of chiropractic now, but I've checked, you can get all of these services in Australia, in Brisbane, or the sunny coast today.
Oh, okay.
So I thought we'd go into a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do some medical tourism. What are we going to get done?
So these are all swirling around at this time. Have you heard of iridology?
No.
Take a guess at this one.
Iridology.
Yes.
Well, based on it just sounding like I read, I think you stare into the sun for a bit until your eyes are red, and it gives you supervision. Like, it gives you those, like, shrimp colors.
I wish that it gave you extra, cones in your eye. No, it is a school of this stuff that believes that the iris, so the colored part of your eye, is actually a diagram of your whole body. And it has, like, little charts that show all your levels and stuff.
Like what? Like my power level?
Yeah, like, different segments. So, like, the bottom... it's like, this is, like, your liver, and this is, like, your heart.
Like, let me look in your eyes. Ah, I see. Left-handed. And it's like, that's the hand I am pushing you away with.
Yeah, I was very relieved to see non-invasive for this one.
Thank God.
But it does mean it's just like staring at someone's
just
eye.
Being like, let me look at those.
And like the little, little tendrils.
Yeah.
On the iris. So it's like, yeah, those are like bar charts. And like if it's longer, your liver's working better and stuff.
So what, this is just palm reading for eyes.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's like, that's actually it. I'm glad I didn't have to read a story of structured eye massage. Like that would have been way worse. All right, so I wanted to start with the one that would gross you out most because I know you hate eye stuff.
Yeah, it freaks me out.
But Kieran, have you heard of rolfing?
Is that when you become really famous with an obscure instrument and then you touch children?
Evil, disgraced, and now dead. No heartfelt tributes, no tears for Rolf Harris.
Yes, that is invented by Rolf Harris. What was it, Rolf Harris?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, no, let me send you the logo for the Australian Rolfing Association.
Okay.
Did you know that if you align the axis of your body's energy field perpendicular to the earth, gravity will stop shortening your fascia? it's wacky massages. It's developed by a lady named Ida Rolf, and that's why it's called Rolfing. She's like a weird European immigrant biochemist type, and she looks kind of terrifying. There's a picture of her with an elbow in a guy.
Damn.
So the logo is the logo is a whole picture. It's a whole illustration.
It feels like a weird diagram. So you've got the outlines of like two people, standing in profile. A child. A child. One of them, the child, appears to have bad posture, and each part of their body, like head, shoulders, arms, stomach, pelvis, knees, and feet, are broken up in different boxes. And those boxes in the first image are kind of like out of whack with this bad posture. Like they're all kind of like drifting to one side or the other.
Yeah.
And then in the second image, all those boxes beautifully align and the child has perfect posture. This does just kind of seem like she's just doing that old person thing of stand up straight. Stand up straight.
It's Rolfing.
It's Rolfing. Sorry, that's Rolfing.
It's wacky massage.
So what? It's just to like give you good posture.
She'll dig her elbow into your back and shit. She's basically saying that posture issues are caused by gravity misalignment with your body, and she can fix that with her elbow, and it'll like cure your back pain and your lack of confidence.
That feels like advice I've gotten. Being like, just stand up straight. You'll feel better and you'll be more confident. Except I guess nobody dug their elbows into my back for it.
That's the thing. And on the topic of digging one's elbows into our back, we also have our own field of super massage.
Okay.
It's not as interesting as Rolfing. It's called Bowen therapy. Bowen.
Okay, Bowen therapy.
And it's kind of just like a low-stakes version of the D.D. Palmer story.
Oh.
So this guy, Tom Bowen, he's like, I learned about Bowen therapy from God. And he tried to be an osteopath, but legally was just like a weird dude with special massages.
Just that weird guy who's just like, nah, I can give you a really holy rub.
Yeah, like that. Although it seems to be like pretty chill, and there's documented benefit from having someone you trust touch your body. Like that's medically...
I mean, I'll be real with you. Getting a massage feels really nice.
Yeah.
Like just going to a spa, getting a massage, you come home and just like, I feel loosey-goosey.
Yes.
I feel on top of the world. I'm feeling good.
And there's like better and worse ways to do massages. So
yeah.
There's a lot of these fields, and there's other fields that do still have similar public renown to chiropractic. Obviously, there's osteopathy, which has an intertwined and very similar history with chiropractic.
Mm.
It's very confusing because early chiropractors would often call themselves osteopaths or physiotherapists or naturopaths, and also vice versa, and also dietitians.
That's unhelpful.
The definition of what these fields actually were hadn't coalesced yet.
Okay, that makes sense, because it's like, damn, you can't just call yourself all of those things. But I guess those things didn't have a rigorous meaning.
Exactly. Yeah. A chiropractic historian, and I do what I have to do for this show, describes the Australian alternative medicine scene around the 60s as poor, producing worthless certificates such as mutually declared diplomas of chiropractic. So, like, I'll give you one if you give me one.
Okay, well, I'll give you one in my field, and you can give me one in your field,
yes.
And now we've got extra qualifications.
It's like Pokemon Go.
Fuck.
American and British trained osteopaths had been in Australia since the 1900s, early 1900s, often calling themselves doctors and offering manual therapy. Our historian friend kind of says early Australian chiropractic is, say it with me, a melting pot of regional folk remedies. So
we love a melting pot.
Yeah, you've got
I wish that pot wouldn't melt so much.
It's like the fucking A-League, you know? Like, it's like, why do we have to melt this pot? Like,
you know?
Maybe there doesn't need to be a Sydney
Maybe this
team.
pot should be heat resistant. I don't know.
You've got European osteopathy, you've got American chiropractors, you've got folk remedies, you've got some Chinese medicine. It's like the kebab. But in the 1960s, Geoffrey Maitland emerged from Australia's melting pot. And also from Adelaide, but we shan't hold that against him.
Okay.
At that time, most doctors still regard manual therapy as hillbilly shit. Like, a lot of manual therapy is developed by regional folk with harder lifestyles.
Yeah.
And so you've also got less access to orthodox medical care. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, they're like, you didn't do any book learning for this. You just fucking touch, you're just body touches.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, yeah, they're working with patients. Some medical professionals, though, are seeing the potential for integrating like chiropractic, osteopathic style techniques with therapeutic benefit into the standard healthcare system.
Okay.
And Geoffrey is one of those figures. So he's working with orthopedic surgeons, physiotherapists, and osteopaths to develop clinical guidelines for joint and soft tissue injuries and the associated pain management.
Okay, yeah, he's just like, okay, we can see that this is something that is happening physically to someone's body.
Yeah.
How can we treat it, you know?
What have you guys found? What have you guys found?
Yeah, let's put it all together and work out what the best course of action is for those kind of injuries.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, the Maitland method that he comes up with is essentially what you'll do on your first visit to a chiropractor or physio or osteotherapist today. They're going to test how well you can move your relevant joints. They're going to use that as a baseline. They'll have different levels of resistance.
Yeah, I've done that for physio stuff.
I've done it plenty of times. Yeah, it's
they're just like, all right, let's see where you're at.
Exactly. It's either the Maitland method or a similar method.
Okay.
Maitland is credited by some with mobilizing the profession of physiotherapy.
Okay.
Increasing its compatibility with like the professional medical system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you'll notice that Jeffrey didn't work with chiropractors.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did talk to the patients of chiropractors, especially the ones who found that it worked. But chiropractors at the time were the most militant opponents of the medical establishment.
Oh, okay.
So many of them saw themselves as an opposing force or an underdog to the elite medical deep state or whatever, and we do love an underdog here.
Hell yeah.
So what is it about chiropractic that means Medicare still covers it, and not some idiot staring at my eye to diagnose my gastro? Well, you might have heard of American exceptionalism, but have you heard of Australian exemptionism?
Ooh, okay.
So we love an exemption here, right? We pass all of these fine laws and then doll up a giant exemption on them. And it's only one exemption. Surely it won't cause too much of an issue. Here's a contemporary example to swing us back to the present for a second. So coal mining sites in Queensland, they are required to provide an environmental impact report. Basically a paper that says, here's how much damage we did this year, aside from the actual coal mining. But there's a little exemption for projects projected to produce less than 2 million metric tons of coal. Because, it's just a whittle coal mine.
It's just a whittle one.
All right, let's mine for some iron.
So the magnetic South Gemini mine, for instance, doesn't have to report anything. Because they're projected to produce 1.9 million metric tons of coal every year until 2047.
Right, so they're staying below that too, so it's like, well, we don't have to report.
Yes. Neither do 7 other mines in the Great Barrier Reef catchment area, all of which are projected to produce like 1.9 million tons of coal. Whew, I wanted to make everyone stressed about something else for a second.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Back to 1956, and an amendment has been added to the Medical Practitioners Act.
Okay.
So the act governs what a doctor is allowed to do, where they have to register, if they can practice, if they have a felony charge, whatever. It's that kind of stuff.
Okay, it's just like, hey, we got to do some medical laws.
Exactly. There are exemptions for specific fields to not have to abide by the act or whatever, as long as there is a professional organization with a board to register them. So Exactly. Until 1956, pharmacists and nurses and optometrists, masseuses, and veterinarians weren't covered by the act.
Okay, that makes sense because they're like, okay, we're defining what doctoring fields are.
Exactly.
And then it's like, okay, what about all the allied health things, which are technically not doctors, but provide legitimate care?
So we're saying like, okay, so we're not in a position to deal with veterinarians, so we're going to have a veterinarian board. They're going to deal with veterinarians, so we're going to trust them and let them handle it.
Yeah.
In 1956, registered physiotherapists, chiropodists, and chiropractors were also granted exemptions.
Okay.
So according to an old article I couldn't find, but it's often quoted, this led to a bunch of people in all kinds of fields that weren't included. So naturopaths, osteopaths, herbalists, acupuncturists, Chinese therapy, whatever, calling themselves chiropractors and setting up training institutions.
Oh, shit, okay, because they were like, oh, fuck, an exemption?
Exactly.
We can do that.
Exactly. So this paved the way for chiropractic to eventually gain statutory recognition. So that means you have, like, complete management of your own affairs.
Damn.
It's like, yeah, we're the chiropractic board. We say who's a chiropractor. We are the final word in dealing with that chiropractor.
Okay.
And it's where a lot of the competitors went. Our chiropractic historian friend says the evidence supports the view that locally trained persons latched on to the idea of chiropractic when it became expedient to do so.
Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They're like, shit, okay, so something that we can, even vaguely associate ourselves with, like...
With legitimacy.
If that gives us, legitimacy, then it's like, all right, we'll do that.
Exactly. And it's not defined. There's some of them, like, our historian friend, so he did a really thorough job. He he found a lot of examples of chiropractors in Australia advertising different kinds of things. But he's also like an American who speaks about Australians as though they're dumb. And it's like, bro, you're an American chiropractic historian. Like,
You know,
he's not a historian of chiropractic. Well, he is, but he's also, you know how there's chiropractors who are website makers. There's chiropractors who are historians, but there's a whole economy.
Bizarre.
I want your friends and colleagues and every chiropractor.
So it's not so much that chiropractic won the alternative medicine wars. It was just the umbrella that everyone slides into.
Yeah.
And it's the easiest path to national acceptance.
Okay.
The first big win politically for chiropractic was in 1961, after a royal commission done in Western Australia by Hugh Guthrie. Hugh, a trained barrister and solicitor from a mining town in WA, had served in World War II as part of the 49th Battalion, with Bob Catter's dad.
Oh shit, did he actually go to the battle?
He actually does. He goes to the Meat Shield battle in Papua New Guinea, where Australian soldiers die so American ones can kill another day. So
a strong and devastating rain of fire fell upon the Australians that the 1st Squadron was almost completely annihilated.
Yay.
You can't blame him for being a jaded, cynical bastard. He's also the director of a lithium mine, a couple of big farms, a hydraulic tubery, and for a long time, the mining company of Peter Wright. You know that name?
No.
No. He was Lang Hancock's business partner in some of their early asbestos mines.
Huh.
You know that name?
Yeah.
Yeah. The company that they founded morphs and squarfs and is now run by Lang's daughter, Gina Reinhardt.
Yep, there we go.
So he was the director of that company. Aside from mining, he's also a nationalist.
Classic.
He's a founding member of the Liberal Party, and he was president of the Western Australian Gentlemen's Club.
Yeah, sure.
I say all this to say, A, I don't really trust him, but his motivation is passing laws to get workers back in the mines as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it makes sense. He's like, that's money.
As cheaply as possible.
Yeah.
And chiropractic is a good way to do that. So Hugh's report it's in favor of chiropractors being able to register themselves. And he wants a board created with 2 doctors, 2 chiropractors, and like a law guy to regulate chiropractic in Australia. This board or whatever would make sure chiropractors can recognize medical problems that would be better served elsewhere.
Okay.
They're going to have a thorough training program and accreditation program that'll stop charlatans from operating. So every chiropractor has to go to uni and learn okay, when is it actually tuberculosis rather than subluxations?
Okay, so the idea is to kind of make them more like a, I guess, specialist, where it's like, okay, so you recognize that there is a field in which you can perform your function, and that, symptoms outside of that, that's not for you to treat, that goes to somebody else.
Exactly. And he sees a future for that. And on the question of whether chiropractic only provides short-term relief but causes long-term damage, Hugh doesn't know or care.
Yeah, he's like, I don't give a fuck.
He says it's very difficult for the commission to form any definite opinion because, back pain, nothing you can do, right? You're gonna have back pain. There's no way at all to stop a laboring person from experiencing back pain.
It's hopeless. We'll never make it. Never.
Sorry, hey, you want to work in the mines? And by want, I mean you have to.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a sore back. I don't care.
So
what do I care?
Consequently, Hugh continues, it may be that too much should not be made of this point.
He's like,
stop fucking talking about it. Move on.
The other big question being asked at the time is about the scope of practice. What are chiropractors allowed to do, like you identified right before?
Yeah.
So in theory, they're only allowed to work with the spinal column through massage and applying heat.
Okay.
That would be for specific musculoskeletal conditions and not for headaches or asthma or whatever.
Okay, cool. So this is taking the
subluxation.
Subluxation kind of out of it.
It's not real.
Yeah, but they're trying to take away that kind of core tenet of chiropractic being that, yeah, if I do this thing, it'll cure all ailments.
Exactly.
It's trying to be specifically, we're talking about ailments of the back.
Ailments of the back.
Within a muscular ailments of the back.
Exactly, very specifically. Hugh does meet a couple of cheeky chiros that
does he
admit that sometimes they manipulate other joints.
Naughty.
What's the harm in that? And
hey, you know what the backbone's connected to? The shoulder bone.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. And yeah, they might toe the line past the spirit massages every once in a while to heat, wax, cold, needles, whatever.
That is still massage.
Yeah, but Hugh says no more of that. No more naughty massages.
Choky.
So yeah, they're not going to be allowed to do what this pamphlet that's being passed around claims that they can. So this pamphlet, which is from the National Chiropractic Association of the United States of America, is pretty commonly found in chiropractic offices at the time, and everyone's like, yeah, that's from the Peak Body in America. I've just sent you some text from the pamphlet that describes what chiropractic can and will do.
The practice of chiropractic is as broad as the nervous system, which coordinates all organs, glands, and tissues of the body. Therefore, chiropractic is applicable to a wide variety of diseases which affect the human body and mind. The rapid acceptance of this science of healing has been due in large measure to the beneficial results achieved in difficult cases. It includes adjective therapy, clinical nutrition and dietary guidance, physical therapy using light, water, heat, cold, exercise, and various types of precision instruments, and psychometric counseling to balance the mental, emotional, physiological, and mechanical aspects of the body.
Yeah, isn't it so weirdly written?
Yeah.
Also, it's psychosomatic counseling, not psychometric.
Psychometric counseling. What type of leader are you?
But yeah, so Hugh says not to worry about it. Like, he's just like, don't do it.
Hey, don't.
But it's fine. And the Royal Commission kicks off a period of chiropractic associations being granted statutory registration state by state within these strict guidelines.
Okay.
Again, Hugh knows that some of them are already not following the guidelines that, like, do exist, kind of. But chiros are allowed to call themselves doctors, but they can't describe chiro as an alternative health system. They do get the right to refer patients to x-rays.
Okay.
So that's a big plus for the mixers especially. And by the 80s, you can get...
And that gives them legitimacy as well, being like, oh, yeah, you can go get an x-ray done. Exactly. And it's like, oh, x-rays.
Exactly.
That's expensive, and that's done at a hospital.
Exactly. It's like the crux of the American antitrust case revolves around x-ray machines, actually, but it's a different story. Mm-hmm. And by the 80s, you can get chiropractic degrees at public universities. Australia is the first place this happens.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah. But there is a lot of dispute within Australian chiropractic. And some of it is the, like, straight versus mixer debate. So the straights, which is what, DD's faction are called.
Is he a straight or is he, a mixer?
No, DD's a straight. He married that 13-year-old, remember?
Ooh.
But they're the ones that Hugh's warning us about. They're the metaphysical, I will correct your whole body with your spine shit. And they think...
The spooky ooky stuff.
Exactly. And they are constantly like... these mixers, these anti-subluxation mixers, they're betraying us. They're betraying the roots.
They don't believe in the pure clinical light of the Lord of chiropractic.
Exactly. The mixers want to work within the health system, and Hugh wants them to do that, and other medical fields have done this before, having specialists. So Chiro is making all of these legal concessions. I have a feeling that any doctor is doing whatever they want in their office.
Yeah.
But they're keeping up with the field of physiotherapy, which is also surging in popularity and autonomy around this time.
Okay.
In 1976, Australian physiotherapists become the most powerful physiotherapists in the world by cutting off a very part of their soul and repealing their first ethical principle.
Which is what?
Requiring a referral from a GP.
Oh, man. Oh, God. Oh, man.
So
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, they're just like, no, you can just rock up.
You can just cold call a physio here and
come
book an
in, fuck it.
This is
I've done that.
Yeah, it's a radical move for physiotherapy at the time.
Yeah.
There's still parts of the world where you need a referral to access physio, and if we're talking about Medicare coverage, that's still kind of true here.
Yeah.
But our physios really, took a swipe at the alternative massage crew. So the straights, they're also going to hit back. So they don't have the institutional heft of physiotherapy, and they're in the Chiropractic Association. The board is the mixers, the straights run the association, which is like a public-facing professional body, but everything needs to be approved by both.
Okay.
But they have some, autonomy. The Queensland Chiropractors Association do the extremely straight thing of using vague, squelchy language to wordsmith a legal definition, giving themselves as much breathing room as possible to expand their practice.
Okay.
They have this charter that the government has to approve for them to keep their independence. And they hire a lawyer to advise them, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The lawyer's role is telling them stuff like, yes, that will stand up in court, or no, they won't buy that, or, change this word around, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just, expert in legalese.
Exactly. So the ACAQ, or ACCC, wanted this to be the definition of chiropractic included in the charter. Chiropractic is that healthcare science that deals with the management of the neuromusculoskeletal system and the physiological manifestations thereof of the human body.
Okay, that neuromuscular...
That's the lawyer got stuck on that too.
Yeah, because it's like, right.
He's like, I looked it up in a few dictionaries, and that's not a word. And management implies a lot more than you're allowed to do.
Yeah.
And none of that mentions the back at all.
Yeah.
In fact, it kind of says that you're treating everything because so neuro, you've got the brain, and then musculo is muscles, and skeletal is bones, and that's the whole body, right?
Yeah, that's everything.
That's everything.
At that point.
So he's like, hey, how about we do something more in line with what the government asked, which is a more spine care, physical therapy specific definition.
Yeah.
And the chiropractors describe this as not an option. They just they ignore what that nerd said and eventually persuade their membership. They say they had to persuade them to accept this definition. Chiropractic and osteopathy means the manipulation, mobilization, and management of the neuromusculoskeletal system of the human body.
That's basically not at all different from the first version.
It might even be broader.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, like, they won. And it was passed. Like,
what the fuck?
I don't think anyone checked.
People are just like, I don't give a shit. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it goes on to become, like, a whole type of medicine rather than a technique of medicine, especially in the eye of, like, these are people who are so passionate about going to the chiropractor.
Yeah.
And this was a huge victory in their battle against the AMA, Australian Medical Association.
Damn.
Who at the time, they were still refusing to refer workers' compensation cases to a chiropractor under grounds of it being unethical due to their code of ethics because they subscribe to a different medical system, right? So the AMA is eventually going to be heavily censured on this practice by our version of a shady paragovernmental cabal, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, the ACCC.
Oh, no.
So
no.
They're created by a 1995 reform to competition law, which reformed the previous body which did exist.
Yeah.
But until 1995, medicine, among other fields like mail and the weather, were considered fields of public benefit, right?
Well, yes, I think when you ask those industries to compete with one another, ultimately it's the consumer that loses.
Yeah.
Because it becomes like a weird for-profit thing as opposed to being like, you know, like imagine if we had competing mail systems.
See, it's funny you say all these things. So that sounds really obvious, right? But the ACCC believes in increased competition wherever possible, right?
Well, of course they do.
Because
that's capitalist shit.
They purport to say that it's better for a consumer. So because medicine until 95 was a field of public benefit, they were allowed to behave in a way that a company couldn't. So they don't have to abide by competition law.
Okay.
So this paragraph was published in a 1992 AMA booklet entitled Chiropractic in Australia. The AMA maintains that a medical practitioner should at all times practice methods of treatment based on sound scientific principle, and accordingly does not recognize any exclusive dogma such as chiropractic, homeopathy, osteopathy, and naturopathy. The philosophies which underlie conventional medicine and chiropractic are frankly incompatible.
I mean,
yeah, like that's, and I think that like that's kind of true if you're trying to do medicine. Again, not to, stump for biomedicine here, but they recommend, and if this is all just economics, they're directing their members to boycott chiropractors. And that's another business, and that's not allowed. If you're looking at it from a public health perspective, it's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at it from a business perspective, that's anti-competitive behavior.
I guess, but it just feels like, no, you're right, and that's the perspective that they're looking at it from. I just think it's kind of fucked to be like...
I think it's very fucked, to be clear.
Yeah, just, on the basis of it being like, hey, I don't think this is actually beneficial to my patients, and I, ethically have that, do no harm as the core tenet of my profession. I think I would be doing harm if I recommended these people to a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And the ACCC is just like, you're just trying to keep all that money for yourself. Naughty, naughty business.
Which, it's part of the problem is that doctors have been allowed to operate as businesses and make big profits. That shouldn't anyway.
Yeah, it should be truly public. If it's a matter that, if we all have the right to medical care, which I don't even fucking know that we do, honestly.
I don't think it's written down anywhere.
No, it should be.
Yeah.
B, then it should be completely, not for profit.
So that kind of statement that the AMA had, that's not allowed in economic competition. So if Sephora, for instance, started advertising that products from Mecca will make you sick, that's anti-competitive behavior and defamation.
Yeah.
They'd be legally in trouble. And that's kind of the metaphor that you could make, which I don't agree in the framing of it, but that's the shape of it. So the AMA putting out that pamphlet with all the stuff about chiro, the ACCC views that as a regulation on the free market.
Okay, yeah.
They're trying to say, hey, this business isn't valid.
Okay.
And the ACCC, the ACCC, views the smooth transition to deregulation as a public benefit in itself. One of their founding tenets is we want to deregulate because that's better for the public. So...
Right.
chiropractors, end up going pretty well after 1995. There's going to be a new set of increasingly professionalized chiropractors that are going to form a whole parallel healthcare system under the auspices of economic competition.
Damn.
The ACCC's role, materially, is to waste as much time as possible on a specific case or another case so that the government can point at the studies they're doing as demonstrative about how concerned they are, ensuring that whichever Coles or Mazda or Qantas or Live Nation or defense contractor or disability housing provider has to answer questions and continue to exploit whoever they want for whatever they want.
Yeah.
But the ACCC did get Peter's Ice Cream to pay a $12 million fine for contravening exclusivity rules regarding single-serve petrol station ice cream. So,
good.
Yeah.
Good news, everybody.
Yeah, we're going to disembark from our investigation ship here for the time being. We've traveled a long way from early 20th century Iowa, and I've given myself vertigo. And we'll get back to the ACCC, how the ACCC and chiropractic work together to help chiropractic succeed, and the rest of the story of kind of the weirder things that happen in chiropractic. We'll get back to that next week, but for now, Kieran, how are you feeling about the ACCC and chiropractic?
I'm pissed off at the ACCC, just possibly on a fundamental cellular level. I don't like any of that. I'm like, shut up. And maybe that's just my internal commie, but damn, shut the fuck up. This is good for everyone. No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. This is good for businesses. Don't. I'm so sick of people being like, this is good for the public. No, it's not. Don't lie.
They kind of represent...
Just don't fucking lie.
The ACCC represents, medium-sized businesses, against the biggest businesses, but they're toothless in dealing with the... We'll get into a little bit of that later, but that $12 million from Peters, right? So it was ascertained that they'd caused $35 million of damage.
Right.
Economically, which, whatever the situation was, it was that and exclusive. So, even when they get someone, a fucking ice cream company, to pay up some money for fucking around with the rules that they've set. Less than a third of it. That's their maximum they can do.
That's embarrassing.
They've been dealing with this whole Woolies Coles thing for ages, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, Woolies and Coles,
There's always a case. We're
there's
looking
always
at
a
it.
case, and it's we promise we're looking.
Exactly.
That it's never going to do anything. It's never going to do anything unless there's some actual power behind an investigation into it, which, maybe that just I'm not suggesting anything, but...
The following is a non-profit fan-based parody.
Maybe that starts when we all just start rating them for the food that we want, and we just take it. And
Canberra Raiders.
Now what? Yeah, now we become the Canberra Raiders.
Yeah.
Anyway, in terms of chiropractic, I'm so fucked up on it.
It's fucking weird, isn't it?
It's really weird. Going back to Dee Dee and BJ.
Good to be on your show.
Early on, ABBA.
Hello, everyone.
The Psychic Child. The Psychic Child Bride.
The Psychic Child Bride.
And then Musk?
Yeah, I knew I had to put that in
is related
there
to... I'm stressed. I'm stressed. And just the idea that they're just kind of fucking around the whole time and being like, yeah, we'll certify you in this. And yeah, we can treat problem A and B and C.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, and we can also treat D through Z. And then actually it's a cure for everything. And these guys want to be professional and work with the medical association, and that's bullshit. Not like us.
No, not
True
like us.
practices of the Lord.
True practices of the law, and we'll leave it there for this week. We'll round our story off and talk about a lot of the things that chiropractors claim.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody. If you enjoyed yourself and you want to hear a little bit more from us, and you wouldn't mind, I don't know, cheeky little $1 here or there, you can sign up to our Patreon. It's $5 a month, and it'll get you access to bonus episodes and all sorts of fun stuff that we'll be figuring out.
Yeah.
You can also follow us on Instagram at Should'nta. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us as well at should'ntacome@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, how your day is going.
Yeah.
Just anything.
It's nice to hear from you.
And we'll see you next week, everybody, when we finish up learning about chiropractic. I'm excited.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
scared, but I'm keen.
It'll be fine. All right, bye.
Bye.